Hello everybody, this is Gary Simon and I'm the Chief Executive of FSN and the leader of the Modern Finance Forum on LinkedIn. I'd like to warmly welcome all FSN's members and guests from around the world to what promises to be a fascinating interview around a leading-edge case study. Today I'm delighted to welcome Philipp Claussen, who is head of the finance systems for McDonald's Germany. McDonald's, as I'm sure most of you know, is the world's leading global food service retailer with over 36,000 locations in over 100 countries. The group has made significant innovations to its statutory, management and operational reporting across the enterprise by standardizing its reporting processes and leveraging the power of CXO-Software. Philipp is going to share with us how he went about bringing about this transformation and winning the hearts and minds of those involved. At this point, I would like to take the opportunity to thank the sponsor of today's webinar, which is CXO-Software, a leading provider of financial and performance reporting software. As usual, we have a very packed agenda, but before launching into the webinar, I would like to cover a little bit of housekeeping. If you want to ask any questions, then please type your question into the box in the display panel on the right-hand side of your screen, and we'll try and get to it during the webinar. Or if there isn't time, we'll reach out to you afterwards. So let's get underway. So let's start with the easy part, Philipp. Please describe for us your legacy reporting environment and the day-to-day challenges this presented.
Yeah, prior to 2011, actually, we were reporting directly out of our AS400 accounting system. So that meant that actually everybody, all the controllers, they had their own access models, were pulling data out of tables, joining them, bringing them into Excel and visualizing reports. In 2011, actually, we then introduced Hyperion Planning, and that was actually the first time ever that we had access to a more modern data source that we could access directly with Excel using the SmartView add-in and targeting the underlying S-base database. So, but that actually led to a lot of reports being built on our S-base cube and a lot of data being pumped into the planning application that was actually not really useful for planning, but only meant for actual reporting. So, coming from the need to get a more modern and structured data source, we actually used our planning application as an actual reporting repository and inflated the cube to about more than 500 gigabytes, which made the planning application, what it was meant for, really, really slow. And that was one of the major challenges we had. And also, still, we came from Access. We went then to only Excel and one data source, but still we had a lot of SmartView and Excel tools floating around with all the challenges that brings, like the maintenance of the tools, the usability, people or report consumers not having the most updated versions and asking questions, and also a lot of work needed to be done during month-end close to bring the data into Excel and distribute it along the report consumers throughout the company. And that's why we decided actually that we would need to have a standardized reporting front end on top of our data sources to make sure that actually everybody is aligned and all the reporting is aligned and figures and KPIs are being pulled from a central repository, and that we can get rid of the Excel reporting outside our finance department. Actually, that was one of the major challenges that we had.
Okay, so you've come from a background of, pretty fractured systems, quite diverse systems. How has process standardization, how important has process standardization been in releasing time for value-added finance activities? What were the sort of challenges on the way before you implemented CXO software?
Yeah, and coming from this fractured reporting, the first challenge actually was to gather all the reporting needs, because there was no central function that was overseeing what kind of reports are being created and sent out to whom. So the first challenge actually was to really build up an inventory of reporting that is needed to be standardized in CXO solutions. And the second was that we decided also not to migrate Excel reporting one-on-one to CXO, but rather try to condense the reports, standardize more. We implemented a visualization framework up front, so we really thought about how do we want to display numbers. It starts as easy as that we had reports where the months came first, then the quarters, then the year total, and other ones having the year total first, then the quarters, and then the months, and other reports showed the months, the quarters, and then the year total. So we specifically created this visualization guideline where we said, okay, when we do period reporting and we have months, quarters, and year total in one report, we always go months first, then quarters, then year total, and did that for every report. Also for comparisons between month to date and year to date. We structured really how do we want to present an income statement, how do we do scenario analysis, so when we compare actuals to forecast to plan, which scenario comes first, so it's always actual versus forecast versus plan versus prior year, no matter what you do. So that were actually the major challenges. And then actually to find the right tool for us, that was also one of the major issues that we had before we could even start with the project.
So, if it's any consolation, the research we've done identifies that many organizations have a problem with the reporting inventory. They don't know what their reporting needs are. They know there are a lot of reports they don't use, and so that's very interesting that you have the same sort of issue. But what was particularly interesting, what you said, was this sort of visualization framework, the idea that you could standardize the look of reports for regular operational reporting, and that's quite an interesting perspective that you did that. Moving on, Philipp. I mean, our research shows that, if you like, the fear of failure is a major obstacle to finance function innovation. Did you use a prototyping approach to help you reduce the risk in migrating to a new reporting environment?
Yes, we did a really, really careful software selection process up front. So we got support from the German analyst company BARC, Business Applications Research Center, and did a workshop with them just to sort out all the requirements that we're having to the software, and actually narrowed a long list down to 2 opponents. And we asked both of them to do a proof of concept for us. So we invited them to install the software here on-premise. And then actually we had all of our controllers work with both softwares for 4 weeks. So we asked them to recreate their reports in both of the contestants. And then we did a questionnaire afterwards, which of the software actually suited them more. And that's how we then ended up with CXO Solutions, because it was actually the best fit, and we were really, really confident that actually there is no risk of failure with all this pre-work and pre-testing being done.
But how useful was the prototype? Did you keep the prototype and then develop on further, or when you had made the decision, did you throw away the prototype and start again?
No, we just kept the prototype. We cleaned it up a bit. Like we deleted everything that was not useful for the actual project. But the things that had been built that we could reuse, we reused them.
So the upfront time that you put in, the 4 weeks of evaluating the product, building a prototype, really was very useful because you ended up carrying that forward into the live environment.
Yes, yeah, that, and actually we also had the users already trained, so we covered that as well.
Okay, so that's very interesting, and as you say, it did reduce the risk of moving to a new reporting environment. I mean, go on.
Also, when we planned the actual project, what we did with our reporting inventory, we did a multiple step approach. So we sorted them we prioritized which reports are coming first, second, and which we would do later, so that we could actually go live pretty quick with a standard set of reporting and then enhance that with more detail or more detailed reports or more reports that are only for single report consumers or cover really specific topics, so that we work from like broad reports that are going everywhere to the reports that are really specific topic. So that also helped to get the thing going and to move everyone to the new environment, to get the broad user group first and move them to the new software, and then going slowly afterwards and getting all the users actually to use it.
Okay, so that's really interesting. I mean, one of the goals, as I understand it, behind your reporting initiative was to place control for the reporting environment back in the hands of the finance function rather than relying on the IT function. What was the motivation for this change, and how did you manage it without upsetting people?
The control of the reporting environment has never actually been really in the hand of the IT function, because people were pulling raw data out of the bookkeeping system with access that was already in the hand of the finance function. What we did with the project was actually also having the responsibility for organizing the data, so providing data in a structured data source like Essbase, also back in the hands of the finance function, and we made sure that the finance people were using the right data from the right source. So since we moved all the data together in one source, there was no need to grab raw data from some remote tables on AS400 accounting system, but rather you could get your KPIs out of the system. And then on top of that, we had CXO, where we had most of the reporting needs also covered in standard reporting. So actually what people did when they were creating presentations or they needed to create reporting books monthly, they were actually just getting the data out of CXO. So sometimes when they needed more detail to add to the data, they were actually exporting standardized reports in Excel, because CXO has this functionality to get your data into Excel, and then we're working it from there. So CXO really became the single source of truth, and that's how we put the control back into finance, so we could define the structures of the reporting, define the structures of the data source, and we're actually sure that what we offer to report consumers is the standard quality that you would expect from a finance function.
Okay, so your new reporting environment can deliver reports via the web and mobile devices. How important has this been to the business, and how well has it been received?
The web reporting is really important for us because it reduces the need to send emails actually. So it is available everywhere around the globe. Once you're in the McDonald's network, you have your reporting available. The mobile reporting is only important, I would say, for a handful of people actually, because those people actually have iPads, and but they have been seen sitting in meetings and using CXO and an iPad as their presentation device for financial figures. So yeah, it's a handful of people, but they are actually, I think they use it quite often, and it's really well perceived.
And would those be senior people, or?
Yeah.
It is. They're the ones who prefer to use the mobile devices.
Yeah, they are the ones who have the iPads, actually.
Right, interesting. And so the main benefit of reporting, publishing to the web is really the availability of the reporting, and as you say, not having to push it out via email. I suppose that brings us quite nicely onto the next sort of topic area, which is you've managed also to make the transformation to a more of a self-service reporting environment, i.e. That perhaps people can help themselves to the information. I mean, what does, self-service mean in practice, and what are the benefits to end users compared to your old reporting environment?
Yeah, there's the one major benefit for finance functions actually, that we don't have to print things anymore. Like 8 years ago, 7 years ago, during month-end close and also during forecast, we would actually print out different packages and deliver them physically to the respective people within the company. After that, we switched to PDF, but still there were like 30 to 35 emails that have been sent out after month-end close, because you had like a different reporting package for different report consumers and different functions in the company. And all these reports needed to be archived somehow. So even when we were sending out them via PDF and email, usually the assistants of the different areas, they would just print it out and put them in a folder, and people were running around with the folders with their reports into meetings. So, and nowadays we just send out one email saying month-end close is finished, you find everything you need in CXO, and people would just log in the moment they actually need the information, and not get the information at month-end close and then need to look into a folder to get the information at the point in time they need it, because they might actually need it 2 weeks later. Now they just log in, or if they need to prepare for a meeting, they just log in, they get their numbers. They can, if they want, they can still print it out and bring it with them, or they just take their laptop or their iPad into the meeting. So the information,
Philip, yeah. The self-service, are you talking about they can just get their own reports on demand, or are you saying they can, on a self-service basis, decide what information they want, what reports they want to produce, and help themselves to the data? Where's the balance in that?
What we do for CXO is actually we offer a fair amount of self-service in the point of views and drill downs. We don't offer the possibility to create your own reports,
right?
Because it's really meant for standard reporting. But a lot of questions actually can be answered just by changing the point of view or drilling deeper into the data. So we try to make sure to offer different perspectives, like drill down along accounts, drill down along cost centers, drill down along profit centers, stuff like that, or see projects by cost centers. So we try to actually offer as much information as possible, so that it's kind of a guided slice and dice as possible, but it's not
it's not a free for it's not a free for all, is it?
Yeah, it's not free for all, but that's actually not the use case that we have for CXO. We use usually controllers would use Excel to really dig and deep dive into the cube. And we don't want to offer that as self-service, because even though if you have a cube, you can still find the wrong intersection giving you data that's not meaningful at all.
Yeah, I mean, the danger with self-service is you create a can of worms, people asking all sorts of questions, and it's a two-edged sword, isn't it? It's about giving people accessibility, but not making life for the finance function even worse than it was before.
Yes.
Okay, so we understand that. Has the implementation had any real impact on the financial control that you're able to exert now compared to what you used to have?
I think on the one hand, yes, we have greater control of what gets reported. So we really know that the CXO report and also a printout is kind of a quality label. So people will recognize the CXO printout and will prefer it over any other report actually. So in that case, yeah, we can exert greater financial control while we provide quality branding for the reports, and people know, okay, this report is from finance and it's probably more true than anything that I get from somebody else. That's the one thing. And the other thing is that due to CXO, we can make figures available quicker. So during our preliminary month-end close, we already have the figures in CXO, and senior management can look into the preliminary month-end close and then actually make some adjustments. And the same goes for forecasting. So during the forecast creation, we already report figures in CXO of the work in progress of the forecast and compare them to last forecast to actual. So you can find deviations real quicker and then actually have still time to intervene, because if you only get your reporting after final close, you can't intervene into anything.
Okay. So one of the interesting developments you told me about when we first met for this webinar is you've invested quite a lot in non-financial data. That's a very hot area at the moment. So what are the benefits of this, and how have you incorporated non-financial data into your regular reporting?
Yeah. The main non-financials that we're having in there is actually product-related data on the one hand, so units, and also activity data like promotions, and then we have operational data like speed of service times in there, and we can bring them all together. So we actually can evaluate that when an activity or promotion or product is not performing as expected, maybe we can then see maybe that we have an operational problem because with every transaction with the product we have higher or increased speed of service times. Same goes for we're bringing in customer feedback data as well, so we are able to evaluate whether a product that might not be performing as planned has maybe an operational or a quality problem because we receive lower customer feedback for baskets with this specific product in there. And also with CXO solutions, we have the possibility to have more or to add different data sources. So we have the one data source, which is financial cube, it's just pure income statement, but then we have another data source where we have a lot of transactional data from the restaurants in there, and also the speed of service times, the customer feedbacks, and so on and so forth, and we can bring them together in CXO and actually offer some of the non-financial KPIs also in the financial reporting, and that gives a really great and broad overview of the company.
Yeah, was that something new that you didn't have before?
Yeah, we didn't have that before, but that's actually, it's more a timing problem. We had CXO before we had the TDA data, and then we built up the data warehouse and then for the TDA data, and thought of a way how we can bring it into CXO as well, because we want to keep CXO as the single point of entry. So we're trying to get everything we do on the standard reporting side into CXO. Okay. And also when we go further and have other reporting tools, dashboarding tools in place, we would still have them visualized in CXO, because CXO has this functionality where you can actually display stuff from other web applications or reporting tools also inside CXO, and it reacts to the point of view. So that's we like to keep, or we want to keep it as the single point of entry, and then so that people don't have to think about what data to get. They just get all the data in CXO. CXO.
Okay, so we're getting all this data and serving it up to users for a purpose, and one of those purposes is business partnering. What changes have you seen for the better in terms of the relationship between finance and the operational departments?
The one thing is finance has much more time to analyze data, and also the business partners that have access to CXO have much more time to think about things instead of data gathering. So a lot of questions that have been asked before can now just be answered by logging into CXO. Prior to CXO, we would receive questions from marketing like how many coffee units did we sell yesterday. Nowadays they can just log into CXO and get the information out there by themselves, leaving the financial analyst actually with more time to really analyze the impact maybe of the coffee sales from yesterday.
So has it provided more of a platform for business partnering than you had before?
Yes. Actually, we're onboarding more and more departments, I would say almost every month, because we create, with all the non-financial data that we have and the TDA data that we have, we create a lot useful content that we can share throughout the company, and that will actually enable them to have most of their analytic questions answered in self-service.
Great. So, to wind up now, one of the big agenda items for the modern finance function is to be, more strategic and provide better business input. I mean, having gone down this route for a few years with CXO-Software and business partnering and better information, better data visualization, how would you say it's changed the role of the finance function, and how, more importantly, how the finance function is perceived by the rest of the organization?
When we started, we were just budget and reports responsible for planning, actually. And nowadays we're finance systems, but actually we deliver data to the company. So a lot of other functions actually rely on us to deliver quality data input for all of their initiatives. So it has come to a point where actually, strategy and insights or consumer insights, if they have an initiative, like they want to do some statistic analysis on data, they would actually ask us to get quality data. So the finance function has evolved, or our part of the finance function has evolved to a data delivery function for the whole company, because we have like this, quality label on the data. It's finance approved, and we make sure that everybody reports on the same data, also the other functions. So if you get data out of finance, you can fully rely on the data. And that's how the role has actually evolved throughout the years, from a sole planning department to a financial reporting function, and now to more into like a business intelligence competence center. We're not quite there yet, but I think we're in a transition.
Yeah, I mean, what's really interesting, and just to conclude, we have just finished some research which shows that finance functions that have got their data under control, we call them data masters. They're the ones that have the time to spend on innovation, on business partnering, and being strategic. If you're always fighting the data like you were a few years ago when you were in the Excel world, you never have time to do all those things. So it's really interesting and lovely to hear the progress that you've been able to make, Philipp. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us this afternoon. I know that it's a very busy time of year for you with budgets and so on. So thank you for joining us. Thank you everybody for tuning in to listen to this webinar, and we look forward to welcoming you to another FSN webinar in the future. Thank you everybody.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure.